Softer skills, but also, I mean, the listening was a really big aspect of that, the ability to and the capacity for listening. But again, I was partly comparing the women that I was observing, doing diary studies on, and the other women for that book that I also interviewed. I was comparing them partly with what Mintzberg's findings were of his executives, but I was also comparing them with the experiences I'd had working in organizations for years. And one of the things that was very apparent to me from having worked in organizations was that you could get a male leader in an organization who was a good listener, but the way the organization was structured, he didn't get any information that was worth hearing from his people because the structure of the organization was set up to prevent him from hearing what people were really thinking. And that's what sort of the first rank of people around him saw as their job. I remember once, and I think this was, you know, there were a couple signal events that happened to me earlier in my career that made me interested in writing about organizations. And one I remember very well. I was working for telecom. I was doing speech writing for the president. This was, you know, one of the old former Bell operating companies. And the whole communications department was setting up sort of a town hall forum for the CEO and the CIO or COO. And you know, we'd written out questions and answers, and they had satellites set up throughout the company. It was a huge company. There were 40,000 employees at different sites, and people would be asking questions of Fred and Fran. And of course, the question on everybody's mind at that period had to do with some pension issues. And the way the guys around Fred and Fran structured this entire meeting had to do with preventing anyone from bringing up the issue that everybody was really thinking about. So it was all these really, you know, kind of Fox News type, you know, questions of trying to flatter Fred and Fran, you know, and apparently at some of the sites, I mean, grown people in their 40s and 50s, executives were, you know, going up behind the TV monitors and putting their hand up like that, and just were so disgusted with the lack of candor. And would I say that that was characteristic of these two guys, Fred and Fran, the CEO and the COO, whom I knew and had worked with? No, I think they were very candid people. But the way the organization was structured was essentially to shield them from any bad news, from any conflict, from anything real anyone had to say. So I don't think it's just a question of empathic skills. It's also a question of being able to structure your organization in such a way that you do have the capacity to listen to real things.